In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose. As long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we're going to be talking about the Bears' new hire, talking some Bulls, some Blackhawks, and more. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You could see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. Sure, the season is not going on, or this is, sorry, the season is going on right now, so make sure you head on over to icehogs.com, get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, tickets, and more. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Alex, I was fully expecting to go into this episode talking about the different candidates that the Bears had interviewed already of the 9 for offensive coordinator and kind of walk through pros and cons and the schemes. But they made a decision.
They did, and it's kind of good that we waited an extra day because it lines up pretty well for us to
Yeah,
talk about it.
yeah. And going into this, I mean, I do want to just talk a little bit about some of the choices that they had brought in. Um, I was mostly happy with the folks that they brought in. I thought it was um, a nice representation of options. They brought in Cliff Kingsbury, and I mean, he runs the air raid system, but he's coached Patrick Mahomes, Johnny Manziel, Kyler Murray, and Caleb Williams. But I honestly don't think there was any chance that they were going to hire him. I feel like that was more of a fact-finding mission about Caleb Williams than anything else, because he was his one of his coaches this past year in USC.
Well, if they would have hired him, everyone would immediately be saying, "Oh, they're drafting Caleb Williams." That would have been the narrative.
Oh yeah, totally been the narrative. Um, and people are bending over backwards and breaking their arms trying to reach and twist to get links to anything um, regarding the interview people and the new hire Shane Waldron.
Yeah,
It is kind of funny.
it is. It is.
Um, Greg Roman was an interesting hire. Or, I mean, interview because he coached Lamar Jackson to an MVP. Has a
Hmm.
super strong running game. But we saw what some wide receivers had to say about working with him as an offensive coordinator. And again, I I saw that more of a fact finding mission. Like, hey, like how would you deal with Justin Fields if you were the offensive coordinator?
Hmm.
Because some of these interviews, they interviewed 9 people. I think, you know, there was obviously the first and foremost is you're looking to hire your guy, find your guy, hire your guy. But you know, part of interviewing 9 people is to get an outside perspective, like because you're going to ask them what are you going to do to make our quarterback situation better? What are you going to do with our offense? What players would you want to bring in? What would you have done differently? And
There's
sometimes
yeah,
just
there's a
hearing.
value of picking the brain.
Absolutely. And it was pretty obvious to me that they wanted to get somebody that was from the McVay tree. So they're not deviating too far from the system, that West Coast system that they're running. And Shane Waldron's, he's coached under McVay. System's a little different, but you knew what kind of system they were trying to go for. But they brought in some other guys, and um, and I appreciate that most of them weren't buddy guys. Like Marcus Brady was a buddy guy with Eberflus because he worked with him in Indianapolis. And Marcus Brady, interestingly enough, coached under Mark Trestman in Canada.
That's right, he did.
So he's from the Tressman tree.
Oh man. That
Uh,
tree's just seeping with maple syrup.
um, and Greg Olson was brought in. He's older. He's like 60 years old, but he was the Seahawks quarterback coach last year. And I honestly think that was uh, hey, if Shane Waldron wants to bring this guy over, have we already met with him and feel comfortable with him? Um, but the two names that I was most interested in of these nine candidates were Clint Kubiak, who's 36 years old. He's young. He's the 49ers passing game coordinator. He had a hot minute as the Vikings offensive coordinator in 2021. Um, he's he replaced Bobby Slowick, who's the offensive coordinator for the Houston Texans this year. He replaced him in the 49ers coaching staff, and he's the son of Gary Kubiak.
Hmm.
Really, really smart football mind, has some offensive uh, coordinator play calling chops. Um, but ultimately, they went with Shane Waldron, and I think Kubiak would have been the swing for the fences hire, but you have no idea where that floor is. I feel like Shane Waldron has a pretty high ceiling, but also a pretty high floor. I don't think he's going to be a failure. Even if he doesn't live up to your hopes, I don't think he's going to be a failure. I think him failing would be uh, a middle of the pack offense.
Yeah, and I think that just as fans, we look at the situation and think, some of the positives we can take away right off the top of our heads are, one, you're getting an experienced guy. Luke Getsy was not an offensive coordinator in Green Bay. So the Bears was his first job as an OC. And we do often reference when talking to him in the positives, what he did with Geno Smith in Seattle. I like those are kind of the two things that I think stick out to a lot of fans who maybe don't follow the offensive game as much. If you're just kind of looking at the resume, you're saying, okay, experienced guy. Look what he did with Geno Smith in 2022, with Pete Carroll and the Seahawks. So those two things kind of stick out. And, I see this hire as okay, I'm not sitting here hating it. I don't think it's going to be awful. I mean, do I have the hopes that it's going to be a San Francisco or a Detroit with Ben Johnson? No, but I feel better about it being a Luke Getsy or a Matt Nagy for that matter. At least I can say that.
Yeah, I feel confident that, there's no learning curve as far as being an offensive coordinator. He's got multiple years of experience. His the coaches that he's coached under is pretty impressive. He worked for Bill Belichick, he worked for Pete Carroll, and he worked for Sean McVay. Like those are some pretty notable names as far as coaches to have worked under. He's not a super young guy. He's 44, but he's definitely not old by any stretch. It's you feel like this was the good safe hire. They're safe hires where you're like, oh God, like this is a bad safe hire. I feel like this was a good safe hire. The floor is pretty high. I don't know how high the ceiling goes, but honestly, if if we add the talent that I think we can, I think just having a competent play caller that can put in some schemes will make us a formidable opponent. Because think of think of how good the defense did this year, where half the season they had zero pass rush.
Right.
And, I know we hated the result of the Packers game, but just think, what did that team do the next game they played after the Bears? They dropped what 48 on the Cowboys.
Mm.
What did they do against the Bears? How many points did they score?
They scored 17, but here's the thing. They controlled the whole game.
They did, but I'm just saying is the the Bears, imagine if the Bears had a competent offense that would have been able to, at least flip the field a little bit and take back
Sure.
some of that clock and put up you know, a not embarrassing number of points.
Right. Sustain drives, score touchdowns, not just field goals. Yeah, no, I get that. I definitely get that. Um, I think that you can look at what we saw last year with Luke Getsy, and you saw how well things like the scripted drive worked. Like, how many times did they march down the field on the very first drive? And then you go away from it
Yep.
and you completely take away what was working. I mean, I feel like my hope is that you're going to get an OC that's going to maximize what your offense is, whatever it is, whether it's Caleb Williams, Justin Fields under center, and what weapons are there. But I think that with this hire, if you want to be successful, you're going to have to get more wideouts, legitimate wideouts with this
Yes.
hire.
Agreed. Um, but uh, I want to talk a little bit about Shane Waldron, and I know there's some Seahawks fans that are like, "Oh, I'm so happy to see him go." I think a lot of that is the overall result of the team, and I don't think that's fair to put it on him. But they had no running game. They didn't.
No,
They
they
didn't.
didn't.
They did not provide him like a legitimate running back. But what he did with Geno Smith is pretty darn impressive. Geno Smith has been pretty much a career backup or that veteran that you brought in case the first round draft pick or a quarterback that you drafted wasn't ready for the first couple games. Um, that's the kind of guy he was.
I mean, frankly, when they brought Geno Smith in, when the Seahawks did, I forgot he was even still in the league.
Yeah, I mean, you know, here's quarterback ratings he's had 66.5 for the season 66.5, 77.5, 81.3, 39.6. The last 3 years 92.1, 100.9, and 103.0. He uh
Big difference.
not this past season, but the season before that, Geno Smith completed almost just shy of 70% of his passes for almost 4,300 yards and 30 touchdowns.
I mean, he had one of the best completion percentages in the league.
Yeah. And uh that was with Shane Waldron. I mean, that's that is really, really impressive what he was able to do with him. And um that's the big thing that I don't know if there's no indication or signs that whether it's going to be Justin Fields or Caleb Williams next year or
No, and we
Drake May for
keep
that.
hearing, oh, this means Justin Fields. No, this means we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. But if it is Justin Fields, where Justin's deep throw game is really good. Where he struggled was those intermediate passes, and a lot of those are just, the pass rush had already broken through, or receivers just nobody open, and that's where you had if you can have a system where there is receivers open 12 yards down the field, 9 yards down the field, and he can just hit those with a quick throw, without having to worry about getting hit or having to scramble for, you know, uh, run back and forth for 50 yards before he crosses the line of scrimmage. Um, you're like, man, this should make the offense so much better and so much more potent. It doesn't seem like there's that much tweaking you have to do. But your point about having to add talent is a big one. You
Yeah,
have,
you need more than just DJ Moore being a legitimate wideout.
and I was talking with a friend today, and Darnell Mooney came up, and I've been thinking about Darnell Mooney. This is not has not been a good year for Darnell Mooney,
No.
and it was a contract year.
Hmm.
What if it works out in the Bears' favor? Because he has talent. We've seen it. We've we have seen it on display. What if Shane Waldron comes in and goes, I think we can utilize this guy, and you take advantage of, man, he had a crappy year, and you get a 3-year deal done for $8 million a year, which for a number 3 wide receiver that you didn't draft is pretty decent money. And it's not bank breaking, and it gives you a guy that's been in this on this team. Um, I wonder if that works out in the Bears' favor.
It might. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I just feel like that ship has sailed.
I mean, it's possible. It's just it always stinks having to go in replacing 2 receivers.
Yeah, but if with the resources you have, you get legitimate dudes. I mean, let's say you do keep Justin Fields and you get Marvin Harrison. Listen, Darnell Mooney in his prime was pretty underrated. He was pretty good, but you're looking at a superstar potential wide receiver there. And I mean, listen, to your point, if you took advantage of his down year and gave him a cheaper deal, if they did that, would I be vehemently against it? No, I would just hope that he's at the very most your number three because you need a better number two.
Oh,
Regardless of
absolutely.
how good or bad he is, you need a better number two.
Absolutely. Your focus, that should be your number one. I mean, your quarterback situation is going to work itself out. It's either going to be Justin Fields or your number one pick. I don't know if I buy the trade back and draft, the number 3 quarterback with your 9 pick. I don't know. I think it's either number 1 or Justin Fields.
Now, let me ask you this. Do you think it's possible that they keep Justin Fields, but maybe you trade back a few spots, you get more draft capital, and say, hey, second round, let's draft a quarterback?
It's possible. Uh,
Because I feel like you should draft a quarterback, even if we're not talking necessarily replacing Justin Fields, or if you're going out and saying, hey, Justin's our guy, but we're still not committing him long term yet. I mean, if you franchise tagged him. I don't know.
so could you do that? It depends on how the board falls. Because if you go a second round quarterback, obviously Drake May, Caleb Williams are gone.
Right.
Jaden Daniels is gone. Um, is Michael Penix Jr. there? Because you look towards the end of the draft, and those are the teams that just don't need a quarterback. So either team's going to trade up to get one of those guys that they missed out. They didn't want to draft him in at 9 or 10 or whatever, and they were looking for a guy, and they're going to trade back to the late first round. That's a possibility, but honestly, I think Penix and Bo Nix could fall. The only issue is you would have to trade to get a second round pick because you don't have one.
Right. And I mean, this is assuming that you trade and you get a second round pick. If you trade down, this is all hypothetical scenario.
I mean, my I don't care anything about. I mean, there's really 7 quarterbacks in this draft. and three are going to go in the top 10. After that, I don't know where Michael Penix and Bo Nix fall. You told me they went 15 to 20. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to fight you on it. But if you told me they went 28th to 38, okay, that's a possibility too. JJ McCarthy is probably a mid second round pick. So
Yeah, sounds about right.
I don't know if I'm in on Michael Penix Jr. Bo Nix, if you get a second round pick and Bo Nix or JJ McCarthy are there, that's tough to pass up at that point because you've
Mhm.
already extracted the value of trading the number one pick. You have the safety net of Justin Fields. Bo Nix and JJ McCarthy are real interesting names.
And I'm not really sure JJ McCarthy is going to be an answer in the NFL, but if you had the safety net of somebody else and you took a shot at him,
Yeah,
I don't know. Again, it's going to depend on where a lot of things are come draft day. Because remember this too, we got to go through free agency as well. Because what are you going to fill in free agency?
right. But I mean, Bo Nix is, I think he could be sneaky good.
He
Um,
could be. He
and
could be.
and JJ McCarthy, he's got the arm and he played big time college football. It's it'll be interesting to see what becomes of him. I'm not one of those people who's like hanging my hat on him and riding him with him to with he's your number one QB. No, but in the scenario you present where you're like, hey, let's take a flyer here. I would be willing to risk a second round pick on a JJ McCarthy, and I would definitely, risk a second round pick on Bo Nix. I like Bo Nix a lot. He's he is he's my number three quarterback in this draft.
Sure. That's fair.
And so if he were to fall, it would be tough to not want to snatch him up, especially if you've extracted that value of the number one pick. If you walk away with three ones and two twos, and you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna roll the dice. It's house money at that point.
Boy, if you have three ones and two twos.
And you would have two ones still this year, and two ones next year, and two ones the year after, and you could take that flyer.
That draft capital is like the draft positioning and the draft capital they have really feels like the one primary advantage we have right now. I mean, really.
Yeah. So
I don't know, Sean. This might veer off to another conversation, but I guess I could bring it up now, unless you have any other thoughts on what we were talking about.
no, no. I mean, it just kind of evolved here. So go for it. Whatever you were thinking about.
I just this division going forward. If this is where the Packers are now as the youngest team and Jordan Love in his first year, and look at what the Lions are doing, feels like they're only going to get better, right? How are we going to compete with this?
I mean, the lines are good. Don't get me wrong. I just don't feel like. I mean, they're going to take a step back next year
You
because they're gonna
think?
they're going to lose their offensive coordinator. I don't think that there's going to be a seamless transition. And I'm not taking a major step, but we should have beat them twice this year,
We should have, yes.
and we're going to be better next year. And they're going to take a step back offensively. Um, and so that's the the saving grace is I with Green Bay, I honestly think that it's the offensive play calling and the run game that opens everything up for their pass game. Jordan Love can hit those passes, but he he relies on having to have college level separation from those receivers. He can hit those tight ones, but as we've seen, he throws interceptions. What lost them the game against the 49ers that they had in their hand.
They really should have won that game.
Yeah.
They really, really should have. The thing about Jordan Love that really scares me truly is when he's in the pocket, he is calm as a cucumber.
Yeah, he is. And then off that,
Absolutely calm as a cucumber.
and he gets clean pocket and he gets open receivers and he does what he's supposed to do with it. Can't fault him. But I'm hearing because the Packers are going to be in tight cap space this year, this offseason. I'm hearing David Bakhtiari is going to be gone and Aaron Jones might be gone too. And he is the one that I'm scared of
He
because
kills us.
he kills most people. I mean, that he was a big reason why they beat the Cowboys is the Cowboys, couldn't stop the run. And he gives you a short, like a second, and he gets 6, 7 yards on first down. And then you're looking at um, second and 3, second and 4, and then the whole playbook is open. So, you know, he can lower his head, pick up the first down. You can have a deep pass from Jordan Love to a wide open receiver. There's the running game or the whole playbook is open, and that's the scary part. Is I don't know how you replace Aaron Jones if he moves on.
They have to
And
draft somebody.
and and honestly, they're probably going to have to extend Jordan Love this offseason.
Oh yeah, he's gonna get paid.
And what do you think that per year number starts with if you're Aaron Jones as his agent or Aaron Jones? If you're Jordan Love's agent, what number do you think that per year salary starts with?
Oh geez.
I think it starts with a five. I think you come out there and you ask for 51, 52 a year.
Could be. I mean, you saw how productive he was in his first year as a starter.
So
I mean, he's definitely gonna get paid. I mean, there is no doubt about it. I mean, like, okay, so you look at who's getting paid next year in terms of quarterbacks.
I mean,
It's,
there's talks of having to renegotiate Patrick Mahomes' contract.
and he's
Um,
not even going to be the highest paid quarterback in terms of AAV next year.
no, he's no. I mean, the Joe Burrow's number of this 2023, Joe Burrow's 55, Justin Herbert's 52.5, Lamar Jackson's 52, Jalen Hurts is 51, Russell Wilson's 49, Kyler Murray's 46.1, Deshaun Watson's 46, Mahomes is 45, Josh Allen's 43, Daniel Jones is 40.
Daniel
Matt,
Jones making
Matt
$3
Stafford is
million.
40. Dak Prescott is 40. Dak Prescott's the next one to get paid.
For a bunch of playoff losses.
But that's those tough situations is Dak Prescott is really good regular season quarterback. Gets you a high seed in the playoffs.
Then
And
just
then
completely shits the bed.
and it's not just him, that whole team just shits the bed and in the postseason. They just crumble. And
Yeah, yeah.
and so, but what do you do otherwise if you're the Cowboys? How do you get better than Dak Prescott?
Yeah, no, to me, it's a more severe situation than Zach LaVine and the Bulls because it's like, hey, you know what? He might have his deficiencies, and we've seen some struggles when times get dire, but there's still a lot of production there, and you either pay him a shit ton of money or you lose him.
Yeah. And if you're Jordan Love, you go in this contract negotiation, you're like, okay, I want to be paid top five, which would
He
make you
absolutely should ask for that money.
which makes you $50 million a year.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
And, here's another interesting thing we're going to watch next year in the NFC North. We're going to be talking about Jordan Love and his future, but remember, Kirk Cousins is going to be a free agent.
Yeah, he's not gonna get that many years.
He's not going to get that many years because he's older, but if you were to guess right now what's going to happen to him, I mean, my guess would be he's going back to Minnesota.
Yes. And I'm gonna guess what did he make this year? Um,
And while you're figuring that out, remember this too. The Vikings might have started 1-4, but then they won a few games with Kirk Cousins, and that team was starting to look legit. And then he got hurt. If he doesn't get hurt, I think it's very possible that the Vikings would have been in the playoffs and the Packers weren't. Or, maybe the Packers were in, but the Vikings were also in. And I
so
don't know how he's going to rebound after that injury, but you got to figure if he goes back, that's going to be another tough thing to deal with.
he essentially made $30 million last year with bonuses and whatnot. Um, that I would assume that's the the low point. So I'm going to guess 30 to 35 on a, two year, $68 million contract.
And he's what, 36, 37?
Yeah.
I mean, this could be his final contract, depending
Probably.
on how big it
I
is.
mean, he's made generational life-changing money, but to wrap up your career and make sure your great grandkids are set. There you go. So the Packers going into this offseason without making any cuts are they have $7,359 in cap space. Not million, $7,000
Yeah, they're going to have to make some maneuvers here.
because they can't sign their draft class with that. Um, so yeah, that's why I'm hearing that Aaron, they can finagle things a lot with a contract extension with Jordan Love, but Bakhtiari's going to have to be gone. They're going to have to cut some players. But where it's going to be interesting for the Bears is there's going to be the free agent class, but there's also going to be the Saints are about $84 million over the cap.
Crazy.
They still haven't paid the piper. We talk about them having to pay the piper, and they keep kicking the can down the road. They haven't
Mm-hmm.
paid that piper yet. The Dolphins are $52 million over the cap. The Chargers are 46 million over the cap. The Bills are 44 million over the cap. The Broncos are 23 and a half over the cap. The Cowboys are 20 over the cap. The Browns are 20 over the cap. The Steelers are 15 and a half over the cap. The Seahawks are 4.5 over the cap, and the 49ers are 3 over the cap. So
But there's one team that has a lot of cap space in our division, and
there's
it's the
two.
best one.
There's two teams that have a lot of cap space in our division. The Lions and the Bears.
Yeah. That's the other thing that scares me about Detroit. They have all this cap space. They got this great team. They have all this cap space. They're going to
Uh,
get even better.
yes, but um, they also have to sign Jared Goff to an extension.
Which is
He's got
true.
he's got 1 year left. Remember when we
And
laughed at that Jared Goff contract that he's extension he signed?
it's looking pretty damn good.
Yeah, next year he's going to be making $26.5 million.
And that's his final year.
Yeah. So
Do you think they work on an extension now or after next year?
see, you're still in that predicament. Like, if you're the Lions, you say all the right things and you go, okay, well, that's our dude. We're riding with Jared Goff. But you can't tell me that they wouldn't love to have a better quarterback than Jared Goff. Like
Well,
he's done some nice things, but if you're in a shootout with Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, do you feel like he could, you know, do something in a showdown like that, in a shootout?
maybe, but I think that you did mention a key thing earlier, and that's the fact that Ben Johnson's going to be looking for a head coaching position.
Hmm. And I'm hearing that, yeah, he's probably going to be the Commanders.
Didn't they already hire a head coach?
Did they? That's what I was hearing rumors. Um, Commander, I think they hired a GM, didn't they?
Maybe it was a GM. I don't. They hired somebody. He might have interviewed with them.
Let's see. I'm on SB Nation's Commanders. They no, they just hired a GM,
Okay, that's what it
Adam
was.
Peters,
Yeah, okay.
which
It
is
was the
smart.
Patriots that just hired a head coach, wasn't it?
Yes, Gerard Mayo,
Right.
which made sense for them.
Yeah.
I do like the move. I don't like the move where you hire a coach before a GM. Is you hire your GM and then you let the GM hire his coach. So uh, the new Commanders owner Josh Harris, smart decision there. You bring in a guy, and now you hire your head coach. Um, but I'm hearing that Ben Johnson, and I'm also hearing that the Panthers would just give him about anything to uh, to be the head coach there, but they just hired a GM too.
Yeah.
So who knows? But you're right about this division. The Packers are never going to be out of it. The Lions are a good team that has the opportunity to be better. And the Vikings, the Vikings were a good team that just had no quarterback.
Yeah.
And they're going
I
to get their
guarantee you if Kirk Cousins doesn't get hurt, they're in the playoff mix. They
yeah,
would have been in it.
they would have beat out the Packers. They would have taken that Packers spot.
Yeah.
So um, it's up to the Bears now to keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah, it's gonna be really hard. It's gonna be really, really hard. And you might need some things to go your way if you have any chance.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, number one, whoever is your quarterback, that's gotta go well.
Yeah. If it doesn't, you're gonna be in the basement again.
Yeah, and honestly, it has been such a not just this regime, the the franchise as a whole has been a quarterback pit.
Hmm.
So you have so much weight on your shoulder, what you're going to do. And if you stay with Justin Fields and he doesn't progress, and I hate like, oh, he doesn't throw for 300 yards. I don't care about that. Lamar Jackson in that last playoff game, did he throw for 300 yards? He threw
No.
for like 190 and rush for 100. Like it's when you have a quarterback with that kind of skill set, there the numbers game is not traditional. So I don't care about those 300-yard games. I care about getting rid of the fumbles and being able to make quick throws to prevent to prevent getting the sacks.
Yeah, take those checkdowns, get the ball out. Those are really important. And, if you have an OC that could create some separation better in the middle of the field, hopefully that helps.
Yeah, But
regardless of who the QB is.
if Fields fails, or you bring in Caleb Williams, and Caleb Williams becomes, I don't think he'll be a Jamarcus Russell. I think that's. But what if
That's a
he's
severe,
yeah? But
severe.
what if he's Baker Mayfield?
If it's the Baker Mayfield we saw this year,
No. The Baker Mayfield career arc, where you stick with him because he was number one pick, and he just doesn't get you over that hump. He's not terrible, but he's not good either.
right,
Like, that's the fear. And
right.
I know some people are going to be a number one pick. They chalk a a check mark next to Baker Mayfield because, well, he's got a playoff win and he's thrown this many 300-yard games. And I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback. It's just, if you're choosing quarterbacks, is he your first pick, second pick? Where do you rank Baker Mayfield in the NFL and current quarterbacks?
Are you talking whole career or this year?
Even this year, let's just go this year where he figured things out and he had a system that worked for him. Let's say this year, where do you rank him? Maybe 10th, 11th?
Yeah, somewhere middle of the road, maybe slightly above.
Is that worth the number one overall pick?
No, if you're getting the number one overall pick, your hope is you're getting top five type talent.
Yep.
You want a CJ Stroud.
You
If you're
want
comparing rookie years this year, you want a CJ Stroud.
right. And my other fear with Caleb Williams, and this may be alleviated, maybe nothing, is he's listed in the guide, the USC guide at 6'1". But I've heard multiple reports that are saying that he might be under 6 foot. So when he goes to the combine, he probably won't throw, but he'll get a height weight. And that's gonna be one of the first things I look at is how tall does he come up? Because um, Alabama listed Bryce Young as 6'1", and he or 6 foot, and he measured in at what, 5'9" and a half, 5'10".
Mm-hmm.
So I don't take the PR guide as gospel, and I'm not crapping on Caleb Williams. Whoever the Bears quarterback is next year, I'm gonna ride or die with them.
I'm
I
gonna
just
ask. I'm
I
sorry,
just
go ahead.
I just have fears no matter what they do. No
Oh, of
matter what
course,
they
me
do,
too.
my stomach's gonna be in knots until they do something good.
Until proven otherwise, I'm very pessimistic about this whole operation. But I want to play a little devil's advocate here for Caleb Williams. Well,
Okay.
you and I kind of had our reservations about Caleb Williams.
Hmm.
But here's the thing. I'm going to play a little devil's advocate here. Just hear me out. Let's say they get him, and he's kind of more of that hockey type.
Hmm.
Do you think that maybe that's kind of what we need? Like, I just feel sometimes, and this may sound really cliche, but I just feel sometimes this team is really soft. And
Oh
I
yeah.
think Justin Fields is a great teammate and a great guy to root for, but I I'm gonna go into meatball mode a little bit here. What did the Detroit Lions do under Dan Campbell? What is
Bit
their
knee.
attitude? We're gonna
They
go out
bit
there and
they bit
kick
kneecaps.
we're gonna kick your ass. We're going to beat you and knock your dick in the dirt.
It's
I
true.
just I feel like the Bears, they might kind of they're keyboard warriors. That's how I would describe the Bears. They're keyboard warriors. They can talk a big game on social media or local sports talk radio, but when they go out and they actually face adversity and things don't go great, They crumble. They crumble. Look at Green Bay. They crumble in those circumstances.
That's fair.
This modern Lions team, we're gonna go out and kick your ass. And maybe, just maybe, Caleb Williams is that guy that's gonna be, you know what? I'm gonna be a cocky asshole. I don't fucking care. We're gonna go out and kick their ass. Maybe that's what we need. And again, this isn't me suddenly saying I'm all out on Justin Fields, I'm all in on Caleb Williams, because frankly, I still don't really know. But don't you think it's kind of something to think about?
Yeah, I mean it's true. It's I don't, but is your rookie quarterback the one that's going to give you that moxie and attitude? I don't know. That's uh, it would be nice, and that's one of the key things that Baker Mayfield brings is good, bad, and ugly. He's he's chirping. He's he's getting his players motivated. He's loud and he's boisterous, and Patrick Mahomes. He's not afraid to get in any of his players, teammates, or his coaches get in their face. Um,
And you know what? Like, how many times have we talked about in the past where the Bears are really high on character? Like they look for character traits. And while there are some extents where that's not a bad thing, because like you don't want to bring on like, someone that abused somebody or a criminal, stuff like that. But
I mean, the Bengals star running back beat up a girl on video when he was in college, and
right,
they're
and
like,
we don't want that. But like,
I don't need a somebody that goes and walks all of his old lady neighbors across the street and gets cats out of the tree either.
right. And again, this sounds total meatball, but like again, I don't want someone that abuses somebody, does bad things, criminal things, but like go out there, talk the talk and walk the walk. Like, I like Jaquan Brisker as a talent, but he's been kind of obnoxious on Twitter and shit talk. It's like, dude, you're shit talking the Packers. You can't beat them. Okay. You can talk, but you don't walk. Talk the talk, walk the walk. Go out there, knock their dicks in the dirt by playing the game of football. You don't have to severely injure anybody on purpose, play dirty, but go out there and play tough. Be tough and puff out your chest and win.
You want a Jason Kelsey.
Right. Exactly. There you go. That's what you want. A dude who plays hard, doesn't take shit, but is a really likable guy because he's a fierce competitor. There's a difference between being a fierce competitor and being a dirty, rotten scumbag. We don't want dirty, rotten scumbags. We want fierce competitors. And I just don't think this team does that. They
The
just don't.
the offense has one, maybe two of those guys. Tevin Jenkins and Darnell Wright.
Right. And look how effective they are.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, DJ Moore is great, but he's pretty soft spoken.
And as long
He's
as
not,
he's doing what he's doing, that's okay. But
yeah, I mean, a guy who played a similar game, and I love DJ Moore, and this is not a knock because this other guy I'm going to say is one of the all-time best, is DJ Moore is the poor man's, oh my God, drawing a blank on his name. Um, Steve Smith Sr. They're very similar guys, but Steve Smith talked shit and was physical but very similar players, very similar size, very similar styles. Man, Steve Smith is an all-time great, and DJ Moore is just really, really good. And but if you could get that attitude, or Hines Ward, where he would go out there and he was very nice man, but when he was on the field, if there was a block there, he would tear your head off. He would tear that defender's head off making a block to set the tone.
and Sean, I don't see this happening under Matt Eberflus.
No.
I don't. I don't see it.
The scary thing I'm seeing is, have you seen who the Eagles are bringing in to probably be their next defensive coordinator?
Oh,
Riverboat Ron.
yes, yes, yes.
I think that would be a home run hire for them because he's going to go in there, and for all the negativity that he's had as with the Commanders as head coach, he has kept that ship, you know, from from turning over so many times with you know, between the owner and that stadium falling apart and changing your team name twice and having no quarterback. He's kept that boat. He's just kept that team as a meh team.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, he's not absolved of criticism, but he's had
No.
to deal with a lot of
Yeah.
shit.
And but he's gonna have that defense going. He's gonna bring them with attitude. And I think that was part of the issue with working under Lovey Smith when he was still with the Bears is, Lovey was very a positive guy and soft spoken and he was a grandfather type, and I that that doesn't sit well or work well with everybody.
Right.
And I know the Bears are going to bring in a defensive coordinator for this coming season, but it's a much different situation than them bringing in an offensive coordinator because the offensive coordinator is going to come in and they needed play calling experience because they're going to be heading that offense up. They're the the vice president of offense. The defensive coordinator is probably not going to call plays. It's going to be, I think Eberflus saw the success, and that's the reason he's still here because he took that play calling duty. It's going to be somebody that's going to be essentially a defensive pass game coordinator type guy, help them scheme things and during the week and but they're not going to call the plays. So you're going to have a much different type of talent pool that you're drawing from because you're not going to get a top guy because they're either going for head coaching jobs or they want to play call.
Right.
And they brought one guy in so far, and it's Chris Harris, who played for the Bears, played under Lovey, played that Tampa 2 system under Lovey, and was successful, had a successful career. And I don't know a lot about his coaching ability, but I do know that Greg Gabriel tweeted about him and talked about when he was one of the folks that drafted him, and he said that you know something that they noted was just how what a high football IQ he had back then, and he's like he's going to do great. So hopefully whoever they bring in as this defensive coordinator, sure they're not going to call the plays, but are they going to help set the tone because they're going to be running a lot of the practices. They're going to be that number two man on the defensive side. Can they bring some of that attitude that you know Chris uh Chris Harris, he wasn't outspoken, but man, would he lay some hits.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's going to be an interesting offseason, and I do like the Shane Waldron hire. It's I looked through these nine names, and the two I circled were Clint Kubiak and Shane Waldron. And like I said, Shane Waldron was the safer pick.
Wasn't Gary Kubiak one of the prime head coaching candidates for the Bears after they fired Lovey?
Maybe
I thought he
he,
was.
yeah, he's coached a long time. That would have been, um,
2012, 2013.
yeah, it would have been, his era.
I think it was with Baltimore beforehand.
Yeah, he's all over the place. Um, but the,
Anyway,
the the last thing I have with the Bears, is uh, it's going to be interesting how this draft plays out because the when you look at the draft board, if there's three really, really good wide receivers I mean, I'm very high on two of them. I'm somewhere above lukewarm about the third. So Rome Odunze from Washington, I'm lukewarm about him. But Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr., I am over the moon excited about. But those two dudes are gonna go top five.
Yeah.
And by your pick at number nine, Rome Odunze is going to be off the board too. And your uh the next, I mean, a lot changes between now and draft time, but the next rated wide receiver is somewhere in the 20s. So you're if those three guys are gone and you're sitting at the number nine position going, all right, we either traded back on that number one pick beyond nine, or we took Caleb Williams. Your number nine is no man's land as far as some of the picks the players that you want. It's in that number nine area. You're looking at uh, cornerbacks, offensive tackles, another quarterback, and cornerbacks. So you're a little too high of a draft pick for the defensive ends, Dallas Turner and Jared Verse, and you don't really need a cornerback. I think drafting a tackle at nine is a luxury pick that they probably don't have the luxury to take. And granted, these are really good offensive tackles, but it doesn't fill a hole. It fills Braxton Jones is not, you want to get better at that position, but he's not a hole. Uh,
Right.
so that number nine pick is a little bit of no man's land for you because you're not drafting a cornerback, probably not drafting a tackle. There's a defensive tackle, the kid from Illinois, but uh, is that where you want to go? A defensive tackle from Illinois at number nine?
Yeah, I don't know.
Um, yeah. So little bit of you know, I would guess if you're probably not overdrafting a wide receiver at that point because that's really an overdraft. Maybe you overdraft slightly for one of those defensive edge rushers, and then you currently don't have a second round pick, so your next pick is the third round. So you've got a long delay between number nine and your third round pick. So the strategy is going to have to come in, and maybe even if they draft Caleb Williams, they try to draft or trade back that number nine pick for somebody that wants to get Jaden Daniels. You trade back and pick up an extra second rounder. It's going to be interesting how they play this out.
Hmm.
What else do you want to talk about?
I'm good with the Bears.
All right, what do you want to talk about then next?
Well, I do think that we have to take a moment. I'm sure you heard the news today.
Yeah, about Sandy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so do you want to kick it off here?
Yeah, so Ryan Sandberg today announced on Instagram that he currently is battling cancer and that he is starting his treatment and he's, fighting real hard. And I think that a lot of the fans have already expressed, I mean, most of the fans, if not all, really have gone out and expressed, their prayers, their thoughts, their well-being. So he got this diagnosis last week, metastatic prostate cancer. So his treatment's underway. The good thing is that prostate cancer over the years, medical technology and the knowledge we have of it has made it become very treatable. Um, Still scary, still terrifying,
Yeah,
but
it's not. It's
he's
not
in
paying.
good, we believe he's in good hands,
He's
and
he's
we're
at
all,
Northwestern.
yeah, he's in very good hands. And I think that we're all praying for him, and we're, uh, sending all of our best well wishes to him. And, Cubs Nation will be behind him, and we hope to hear good news as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean the good things are, yeah, like you said, it's not pancreatic cancer where, it's where we're talking about how much longer he has to live. This is treatable, and he's at a world-class institution in Northwestern medicine. So, you know, I think our sentiments are mirrored here, and we're all wishing the best for Ryno, and and all of Cubs Nation is rooting for him. He's still young. He's 64.
Yeah.
So that's um it was sad news today. It was a little bit of a shocker.
Yeah, definitely. But, we're going to stay strong with him. And, we fans might not be medical professionals, but I think sending him as many good vibes, good prayers as we can will really help lift his spirits and help guide to getting better.
Yep. Other than that, there's just Cubs news is
Yeah, nerfing.
there's nothing. But interesting, interesting White Sox news.
Yeah.
Um, and there's more than meets the eye, I think. So the White Sox deal, their lease is coming up at guaranteed rate field. And there's talks, and from what uh, Bruce Levine was saying, it seems imminent that uh, the White Sox will be looking to build a new building at the 78. And I'm not sure if you know where the 78 is, but I used
I
to
do.
work. I used to work like across the street from the 78, and it is it is a cool piece of land right there, and it's one where I I was thought that it was a possibility that the Bears could build something there, and
Yeah.
and it would be a little bit small for an NFL stadium, but for a baseball stadium, I think it's perfect. And for the Whites, I think that would be a home run spot because you are uh, where the 78 is. There's already talks and progression about putting a red line stop there. So you'd have a stop right there, like literally right at the park, like Wrigley Field to the red line close. Um, you would be in a much better area. You're much closer to downtown, much closer to touristy areas. Um,
Have the
there's,
ballpark face downtown so you get that nice
mhm,
backdrop.
yep, it is such a home run idea, and it sounds like it is. It is not a if, it's a when, and I just think it's a great idea. When that got somebody mentioned that, I was like, wow. I thought that would have been a decent spot for the Bears, but that's perfect for the White Sox.
The question is that everyone's asking, who's going to pay for it? I think that's what a lot of people are concerned about.
So I was actually talking, I was cooking dinner tonight. I was on the phone with Gary and my buddy Gary, and he's a diehard White Sox fan, former season ticket holder for a long time. And he, he had a pretty insightful opinion about it. He's like, there's no sweetheart deal this time.
Right.
The deal they have now is like the White Sox pay like next to nothing if they stay under 2 million fans. And it's pretty easy for them to stay under 2 million fans. Uh, but is he knows that there's no sweetheart deal. But if you have this deal in place to build the stadium. You've got the plans. You've got all of the like the city on board. There's no money, but you have the city on your side to help push things through. You have the city, even though they're not going to put money in, they're going to build the red line stop there. That that's huge. Um, and when it comes time to actually finance this, you've put it all in place. You sell the team.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have been talking about that.
You sell the team, and you're going to get that much more because you're going to have this state-of-the-art stadium, steps from downtown Chicago.
Yeah, you're right.
It's it's not, you know, now it's a niche neighborhood that most folks to go down there, it's a destination. It's a destination to go there. Wrigleyville, you stumble into it. If you're a tourist, you're there. You're already there. And there's bars and there's restaurants and there's a lively community there. And even when there's not baseball going on, that whole strip down Clark at Christmas time, every bar is a Christmas bar. And it is it is a lively place to go. And you're like, well, I'm here. I'm going to a baseball game. And but if you come into town, you're not like, oh yeah, I've got to go to a White Sox game. And it's a destination. You're going way out of your way, and you're not already down there doing things. If if you put the stadium in the 78, there's things going on close by. You're like, you know what? I'm going to catch a White Sox game. Take the L like two stops, and boom, look where I am. You are right between downtown and Chinatown. You're tapping into a brand new market. You're visible to the rest of the city. You're going to be introducing yourself to new fans that uh, I just think it's so good and such a good idea. And if you're the White Sox, Jerry's going to do he's going to do all the things Jerry does best is woo people and get, you know, schmooze people, and he's going to have all the things in place, and then he walks away when it's time to pay the bill. And he's going to reap the rewards, get billions of dollars for selling the White Sox, and he's won. And he doesn't when he wins, he doesn't care about winning baseball games. He talks about winning business deals and winning.
Yeah.
And for him, that would be a win. He would win.
Yes, he
Even
would. You know
so,
what's weird is the Sox don't have the property yet as of right now, and yet it still feels more likely that that's going to go through than the Bears in Arlington Heights right now.
yeah, that's the sad part. Is the White Sox? The White Sox are going to get this deal done in weeks, and the Bears are on years.
I mean, are they saying it's imminent, or I don't really know the latest report?
Bruce Levine this morning said that he would expect an announcement in the next couple of weeks, maybe even next week.
Really?
Yeah. So
So
it
what's
sounds,
the timetable for that looking like?
I mean, I think it would be several years,
Obviously, it's not going to
but
be next
yeah,
year or anything.
um, but you know, I would not be shocked if I don't even know what the timetable of building a brand new baseball stadium is. It's probably less than an NFL stadium. 2 years?
Yeah, because can they get out of the remaining lease, or does the remaining lease end? I don't exactly know when the remaining lease ends.
Let's see if the internet knows. Um, does White Sox lease end? 2029. So in 5 years. So who knows? I mean, you if the timetable kind of is perfect, is you get the all of the you spend this year getting the everything in order and getting getting the city to agree to build the red line stop, because the red line, if the stop before it is too far, the stop after it's in Chinatown, that's too far. get that stop right there. And I already heard that the city had agreed to it based on what was originally supposed to be at the 70A, which was supposed to be residential and shopping district. I think they already agreed to that. So I think the money is earmarked for it. So it's just getting them to, um, that's going to take a couple years to build a red line stop. And then you get everything in order this year, start building next year. Let's say just for shits and giggles, that takes you 3 years. That puts you at 2028, and you've got that 1 year left of your lease, and you're ready to walk into a new building. You could spend that last year building up the surrounding area.
So, what do you think happens to Guaranteed Rate Field?
Demolished.
You think it's getting demolished?
Yeah, what else would you do with it?
Convert it into another sports? I mean, you
I
think
mean,
that the Chicago Fire, maybe if you convert it? Because
um,
Soldier Field is just too big for that.
it is too big. Maybe, maybe that's a possibility. Um, I don't know. Maybe it would have been you could have used it for your Olympic bid, but I think that ship has sailed.
Yeah.
That ship has sailed. Uh,
Yeah, that sailed and sank over 10 years ago.
yeah, and I don't see you going for that again. I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, I'm sure they do. It sits there for a while.
I
Um,
just it just, it's not ancient, but it is technically one of the older parks in the big leagues, considering how many new parks there are out there. Because I mean, look how many ballparks have been built since the start of the 21st century. Cincinnati is newer. Washington, D.C. is newer. Philadelphia is newer. Safeco Field, what used to be Safeco Field, I don't remember what it's called now, in Seattle is newer. The Texas Rangers new stadium is newer. Minute Maid Park is newer. Yankee Stadium, City Field, both newer. Marlins Park, newer. PNC Park, newer. Comerica Park in Detroit, newer. Miller Park, newer. Busch Stadium, newer. Camden Yards, newer. Truist Park, Atlanta, newer. I'm sure I might be missing a few more, but a majority of the existing ballparks are newer than Guaranteed Rate Field. The only ones that, I mean, which ones are older? Wrigley, Fenway, Dodger Stadium, Angels Stadium, Rogers Center in Toronto, I believe is that older than?
I don't
Now I
know.
don't know. Now I'm not sure. Let me see. Rogers Center. I know it was around in the mid 90s. Yeah, and open 1989, so that one is older than Guaranteed Rate. I mean, are there any others? Just trying to think off the top of my head. Tropicana Field. I know it wasn't originally built for the Rays, but wasn't that built in the late 80s, early 90s to try to attract a team?
Yeah,
Let me see. How old is that one? 1990, so it's like a year older than the rate. But you get what I'm saying. There's not that many ballparks that are older. There's a lot that are newer. So, and I mean, they've been spending every year since the year it was built to make it better. Like it's an ongoing evolving park. Because when it first opened, you were basically opening what looked like a modern version of the cookie cutter stadiums from the late 60s, early 70s. And I wasn't alive when they first opened it, but I've looked at video and footage of it, and you look at some of the features it used to have. It had those baby blue seats, and do you remember when it had that weird like separation between the outfield wall and the bleachers? Like it was almost like a moat in between.
Yeah,
Like just weird. I mean, they've added a lot of nice amenities there. Like I don't mind going there for a game. Their food is excellent,
that's true.
and their concourse is nice. I don't think the ballpark itself is bad, but what I've said for many years, the biggest problem with the Sox is where they're at. You didn't build a neighborhood around it. You don't have a Wrigleyville or a ballpark village or what the Packers did with Lambeau Field. And you have an opportunity now to do that. How much you're going to fit in that area, might not be as big of a neighborhood, but you could definitely do something, I would think, right?
I'm sure.
You can at least have more than what you have now. Because, yeah, tailgating's great, but, what's around guaranteed rate is basically parking lots and a few local bars and restaurants. You can have a lot more if you build a new stadium in another location.
I'm gonna throw a uh I'm gonna throw an idea out there
Okay.
about what happens with guaranteed rate. What if the Bears bought that land?
Oh, no, 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 no. Please, no. Please, no. No, 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 no,
It's a bigger plot of land than they're currently on.
no, no, no. Don't put an NFL team at 35th and Shields. Not trying to be offensive to any Sox fans, but no. I mean, Soldier Field sucks and its location sucks, so I'm insulting the Bears too. Just,
I
just
I
figure the
like
Arlington Heights out thing, please.
I like the stadium on the lake. It just it sucks to get there. There's no good like the parking sucks. The cabs suck. The walk to public transportation sucks in the winter. Um, but I like that it's right on the lake and
I don't give
right
two fuck
downtown.
sticks. Give me a nice stadium and a nice location. Please. No, don't no. I think if you convert it to like the Chicago Fire Stadium, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, it's better than SeatGeek Stadium or whatever's in uh
You mean where they used to play?
where they used to play.
See, I don't think the stadium was bad. I just don't think the location was
Yeah,
great.
oh, the location stunk.
Yeah, they should. The stadium itself isn't the problem. It's all the location with that. And isn't that one of the reasons they moved?
I think the capacity was a little small.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it was like 10,000 seats.
right. And okay, it's like you might have a small capacity there, but Soldier Field is too big.
Yeah, Soldier Field is way too big. I mean, you can fill it up for you know, like one time the Fire did a scrimmage against the Mexican national team, and all right, that's a
You're
uh
drawing an international crowd.
yeah, when David Beckham came to town, okay, big draw. Like things like that, unique things, but on a whole, we're not really a soccer city. So,
No.
it doesn't make sense. Like I think you can convert uh the White Sox park and remove because some of those seats are real steep.
Yeah, I think you can remove much of the upper deck.
Yeah, you remove that, um, and you make some like nice areas for fans and make it like 20 to 25,000, and it's plenty big, even if you have a big crowd. Make it so like when you go to a Wolves game, like that's a giant stadium for AHL hockey.
Right.
Like it's way too big. But if you could make a situation where you could almost mask off like that upper deck area at uh at Rosemont, like that lower bowl You could fill that up and it looks awesome. And you know, if, but it looks stupid with all those empty seats in the upper portion. Like the same thing with there. If there was a way you could almost like mask those off.
Yeah, and it's I go to a lot of Wolves games, and it's not like the days when I was a kid when the Blackhawks were completely irrelevant and they were filling the arena. The Wolves still do draw, but they draw good for the AHL. They're no longer that substitute primary hockey team they were in the late 90s, early mid 2000s when the Blackhawks were just completely irrelevant, blacked out in the Chicagoland area and totally terrible.
Yeah, I mean, Chicago is still one of the highest. The Wolves are one of the highest AHL draws,
Right.
but they average like 8,400 people a night, which is a good number. But that Allstate
It's like
Arena is
it's like a 15K seat stadium.
something around there. Um, it is Allstate is 18.5.
Yeah. It's
That's a
just a few thousand shy of the United Center.
Yeah, it is really big. And you know uh the the stadium just looks empty when you go, even though there's a ton of people there. The
Right.
parking lot is packed and the lower bowl is packed. And then you've got like 18 cheapskates that are up top and where they have a whole section of themselves.
Well, my dad and I went to a lot of those playoff games 2 years ago in 2022 when they won the Calder Cup, and they didn't even sell tickets in the upper level for those playoff games. They just filled the lower bowl.
Um,
So you couldn't even sit up there. They just sold tickets in the lower bowl for the playoffs and the finals.
yeah, so if you go to an Ice Hogs game at the BMO Center, um, like that is always at capacity because it only seats like 6,000 people or 5,900 people. So it is just packed to the gills.
How
And
many how many seats does Wintrust have? Where the Sky play and what
yeah,
DePaul plays. I think it's DePaul that plays there.
yep. Um, the Wintrust Arena is a little over 10,000.
See, I think it would be awesome. I get the location's not ideal for the Wolves, but if the Wolves played in a stadium like that,
Yeah, like that's perfect. It just has such a they don't have their own. They're playing there, and it's way too big.
yeah, and frankly, I love going to Wolves games. I go to a lot of them for a reason, but like the Allstate needs some update. It's in
It's
dear need of some major renovation.
it is yeah. It's I hate that building.
It's
It's
very old.
yeah the it's old and the layout is terrible. I mean, it's just very cavernous. Like there's um I just I it's not good for anything.
They need to gut it, and just rebuild everything inside.
I mean, it's not like Rosemont doesn't have the money or the land to be able to do it.
Well, I know. I look at all the things they've built up, and the Allstate Arena, the most they've done is repaint like the cinder block walls and put new tiling in the bathroom. It's like, it's in bad need of amenity updates. And as someone that goes there a lot, I can say that I enjoy the atmosphere, but the actual stadium, it needs a lot of work. Um, I mean, I'm going to ask you another funny question. Would you agree that while they've built up some really nice things at the United Center in terms of concourse and stuff,
Mhm.
do you also kind of feel like the main seating area kind of needs a facelift?
I think they need a whole new building.
Really?
Yeah,
You're going that far?
I, I don't. I mean, they're not going to because they just put that whole new section in where the Jordan statue is and the new store and that like concourse area there. But I mean, that building is falling apart. I mean, I was there once and I watched just water coming through the ceiling down the escalators.
Oh, I
And,
remember that. I remember that.
so it's the concourse areas are okay. Just the whole seating is weird and I don't like it. Um, and I know it there's unique challenges because it's both NHL and NBA. You can't maximize it for either one, but I think they need I mean, it'd be nice if they did something completely new. I mean, how old is United Center at this point?
It's old as me, so it's going to be 30 years.
Yeah, it's not. It's probably not old. It's one. It's what that no man's land where it's it's probably still a little too new to go build something brand new. But how much do
It's
you want
also
to?
dated in some
Yeah,
parts.
do you want? How much do you want to invest in a stadium that's probably going to last you maybe 10 more years?
I mean, it feels like their intention is to be there for a very long time.
Well, yeah. I mean, the
You just added a sports book there.
yeah, it's um, I mean, location wise, it's convenient.
Oh, I love it. You get right off the Eisenhower.
Yeah, and you've got public transportation right there, and um, there's Madison is a big wide street that's plenty of places to get picked up and dropped off. Um, like location wise, it's I don't know where else you're gonna go.
I'm all for a renovation and give me some goddamn cup holders in the 300 level, please.
I'm a big dude. Sitting at the 300 levels on honestly, if I'm in this 300, I usually just go in standing room area and stand because I'm way more comfortable.
It is a little cramped up there.
Yeah.
I will admit it is a little cramped up there. And, you know, if you renovate it, you might, take that into consideration. And I don't think there's any plans to do anything major. I mean, again, like the concourse amenities, they've upped their game over the past few years, but there are some areas where I think you could look at and be like, you could really make this better. And because the seats just feel old.
Yep.
Like I don't think they've changed them since they opened the place.
I don't think so.
So you just wonder. And again, it's like I don't go there and be like, oh, this place sucks, but I see some of the stadiums they've built over the past 5, 10 years, and you see what it looks like. You're like, shit, that's nice.
Yeah,
So I don't know.
it's yeah, I like I usually I like the energy up in the 300 level. And I like the price of the 300 level, but I usually if it's 300, I honestly most of the time I'll stand. Do the standing room section because you're only a few feet back and I'm not cramped. I can easily, quickly go to the bathroom if I need to go to the bathroom or grab some food quickly and I'm not missing a lot of the action of, you know, climbing through people and then going down the steep stairs and out and then back.
Right.
I much preferred when I was in Zach Levine's seats for the playoffs because you're like, oh, I'm on the floor. There's a lot of room here. I'm sitting in a nice chair, and that was preferable.
Gee, I wonder why.
uh, yeah. My buddy was talking about, he's like, uh, hey, do you want to go to the Blackhawks game tonight? He's like, we can get a box. We need like 10 dudes. And then he was like, I was like, oh, are we doing it? And he goes, I've been so busy at work, I didn't reach out to 10 dudes. I was like, oh, I would have done it. It would have been, 10 of us chip in, like a little over $100 a pop, and sit in a box. That'd have been sweet.
Mm-hmm. Huh. Pun.
uh, what else do we want to talk about? Um,
Well,
Zach Levine's injured again.
yeah. I mean, the Bulls have been beating up on bad teams, so
Good. That's what they should be doing.
it's just, oh God, it's going to be another battle of 500 mediocre again.
Probably.
I mean, what else can you do?
I mean, think about if the Bulls hadn't started so abysmally.
Yeah,
Uh,
but I mean, realistically, is this team winning anything meaningful?
oh no, but they very realistically could move into the 7 or 8 seed, not or the 6 seed even. Like they're in that striking distance. Um,
Sure.
and could they beat the Knicks or the Cavs? Maybe.
Maybe. I mean, the Cavs kind of gave it to them.
Yeah, I'm just saying, is realm of possibility over a series? Maybe. I'm not writing it off, but are you beating the Celtics or the Bucks or the 76ers? No,
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 no.
no, it's silly. You're not doing that. Um, uh, you're giving it to the Suns tonight. And
Holy crap. Did you hear what just happened?
no,
Wow. Joel Embiid just scored 70 points.
seriously?
Wow.
That's awesome.
70 points.
I like Joel Embiid. I'm happy for him.
Wow. Unbelievable. Sheesh. I'm gonna mute my TV, but I'm gonna put on like ESPN or something. I gotta see how this is going down.
Wow, that is 70 points, 18 rebounds, 21 of 23 from free throw line. He shot 23 free throws.
Wow.
And
Who
Wemby
are,
dropped 33.
who are they playing?
Spurs.
Yeah, well.
Wemby's going to be a problem.
Oh, he's so good.
He's a child still, and he's already starting to be a problem.
Oh, you
He's
said when you said Wemby, I misheard you. So that's
uh,
why I asked who they were playing. I'm sorry.
yeah, Wemby's going to be a problem to people.
Yeah.
You give him a couple years in this league.
Yeah, he just needs to be able I think he needs to put on a bit more muscle, but I think he'll get there. I mean,
Yeah,
he's already
I mean,
an insane talent.
look at Giannis. I mean, it took him a couple years and to fill out in his body uh and figure out the league, and you knew he was good, but then he had that progression, and Wembyama is significantly better than Giannis at this point, significantly. And you give him that same trajectory arc, and you're like, in a few years, he's going to be this dominant dude in the league.
I don't really know much about the upcoming NBA draft, but suppose the Spurs are probably going to get a top 5 pick again, right? I mean, I know it's a lottery now, but the record's abysmal.
They're currently have the third best odds.
I'd take it Detroit is number one.
Detroit is number one. Uh, the Wizards are two. San Antonio's three, but the top three spots have the same odds of getting number one pick, so it doesn't really matter. They're all 14%.
Right.
Um, this draft, I don't know. I, a lot of the it's so much harder now to project the NBA draft than it used to be, because you knew who the when it was all college players, you knew who the guys were, and especially by March Madness, when those guys would separate themselves, you're like, okay, that dude, that's a dude, that's a dude. But now it's, you know, like uh, there's a guy from Australia that's 7'1" that, okay, suddenly he's really good. Like how much Australian basketball do you watch? I've watched exactly zero. Um,
We can at least say that Wemby, when he came into this league, we knew.
yeah.
We knew.
So based on Tankathon's top 10 players in the mock draft, uh, there is two, three, four. Only half of them are actually college players. So it's Perth, Red Star, J.L. Borg, Baylor, G League, Kentucky, Colorado, UConn, and Duke.
Hmm.
So it's so hard to, as a casual or even a more than casual fan, is because I I don't watch international basketball. I don't watch G League basketball. I don't even know where to watch G League basketball. So I have to wait for somebody else that just like I do this for you to go, oh yeah, um, check out check out Ron Holland from the G League. Check out Mattis Buzelis from the G League. Oh, okay. Let me watch some highlights because I don't know where to watch G League basketball.
No, I don't either. I mean, the only time I see like G League footage is because I follow the G League on Twitter, but that's about it.
Yeah, it's it's used to be like NBA or the NFL was always the league where you knew all the top players. You know them.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was NBA because you knew them, especially March Madness, because we're all watching March Madness.
Right.
And you're like, oh, okay, man, that Fab Five team, Juwan Howard and Chris Webber and Jalen Rose, those are three dudes. You got watching them with their baggy shorts, taking it to everybody. And you get it. Makes sense. But baseball and hockey were always, I don't know. They drafted the Cubs drafted a left fielder uh from some small school in Idaho. I don't know. I don't watch Idaho high school baseball. And so you never knew. You never knew these players. And you might not know them for years, up until the advent of everything being on the internet. Like, you know, I remember is I just heard so much about Felix PA. And, oh, he's the future of the Cubs. You know why? Because I read about him in Vineline, and I
Oh,
never
Vine Line. Good old Vine Line.
and I was like, that's how I knew him. I never saw him play. Never saw him play an at bat for years. But he was the dude. I can't trade Felix PA because that's a dude. Um, so you never saw him until they got to the big leagues. And now the NBA is starting to get like that too, because there's so many players that are drafted from non NCAA that you're like, I don't not familiar with these guys. I mean, Wemby he was so generational that we've heard his name for a couple of years, and it was just everywhere. I mean, even a lady that works for me at work, like she's like, I don't watch sports, and she's like, I know who Victor Wembanyama is
Mm-hmm.
because it just, you know, he's everywhere. Um, same with like Connor Bedard. Like those are just transformational dudes. But for the most part, the NBA's get more closer to baseball and hockey, where except for a handful of guys, like you don't know anybody. You just cross your fingers that your team is draft. You don't have an opinion, and maybe sometimes that's good. We're so opinionated about the NFL draft because we know these players and we've watched these players and we've seen every game, all of their highlights, and there's less games, and you've got an opinion about them, and especially a lot of schools that's like Alabama, like that's their team. They don't have a professional team. That's their team. So one region knows all the Alabama players, and so you know about these players. So we're opinionated about it. Come baseball draft.
You want to know something really, really cool?
Hmm.
On tonight, Joel Embiid scored 70,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
January 22nd. You know what else happened on January 22nd?
Is it when Kobe scored 70?
When he scored 81.
81. Okay, I knew Kobe scored.
January 22nd, 2006.
That's that's cool. I
How do you
remember when
like that?
that's an interesting factoid. Is there anything hockey you want to talk?
Nick Foligno's back,
Yeah,
been
signed the extension.
reinstated. Did you see that the Oilers are signing Corey Perry?
I did. I just saw that. It makes you wonder what exactly he did because clearly the Oilers were not concerned about it.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I think the Blackhawks really had to, you know, take action with this because you know why.
Well, there was the rumors, but um, and the when I saw the news article about Perry signing, immediately, yeah, hope he doesn't bang Connor McDavid's mom.
Yeah, I know.
I'm like, oh God.
Give it a rest.
Like, do you know how dumb it sounds?
Yeah, just
Like, honestly, just think about it with 2 seconds of logic. Is Did the Players Association back up Corey Perry? No. Do you think if they would have cut him because he had consensual relations with a woman that was an adult, uh, that they cut him for that? Like the league or the Players Association would have let that
they
one
would not
slide?
have been happy, right?
No. So clearly it was something that the the Players Association and the league were like, yeah, that's not good.
Right. So I hope whatever help he got really helped.
Yeah. And we're still second best odds for the number one overall pick.
Woo!
Uh yeah, at this point I'm like, oh, can we do back to back Connor Bedard and Macklin Celebrini?
Celebrini and Bedard, the next dynamic duo.
Oh my God, how I don't know anything about Celebrini really, other than I'm here how good he is. But the fact that if they got him and Bedard in back to back years, the league, the rest of the league's fans would just have an their heads would explode. Just collective
Oh
heads
yeah,
explode.
absolutely.
And I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
It would be a collection of Bills fan puke.
uh, yeah, that would be amazing. Uh, was there anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think I've said my piece.
I think that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, Spotify, etc. Share this podcast with your friends, how we grow the show. Follow us on social media at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com, or ShyFanPat2 for Alex on Twitter/X, or AlexanderJPatCreative.com for all the cool stuff that Alex does. And again, thank you guys so much for listening. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like number New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on planes. Bears 31 to -7. The Bears. Oh, when the Bears go bearing down.